My name is Russell Kemp, and for the last 9 years, I've cleaned Terminal C at Denver International Airport. Night shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. It's good work, steady pay, and I prefer it to dealing with crowds. Most people don't think about airports at night. They're used to them full of life, announcements echoing, crowds rushing to gates. But after midnight, when the last flight's board and the terminal empties, airports become something else. Vast, echoing spaces full of shadows and humming machinery. Liminal places. Transitional spaces where the normal rules don't quite apply. I'd cleaned every inch of Terminal C. Every gate, every bathroom, every shop corridor. 73 gates total. A1 through A73. B1 through B86. C1 through C94. I knew them all. The tile patterns. The lighting quirks, which water fountains leaked, which gates had the best windows for watching planes land. I knew which bathroom stalls had graffiti maintenance never quite removed, which carpet sections were wearing thin, which ceiling tiles were water-stained. Terminal C was my territory, my domain. I could walk it blindfolded. So when I saw Gate 0 on Christmas Eve, I knew immediately something was wrong. December 24th, 2021. I arrived at DIA at my usual time, 10:45 p.m. The airport was busy for Christmas Eve, families traveling, red-eyes heading to both coasts. The security lines were long even at this hour, people desperate to get home for Christmas morning. The shops were doing brisk business, selling last-minute gifts and overpriced snacks. The bars were full of delayed passengers drowning their frustration in $7 beers. By midnight, though, it would be quiet. Most of the holiday travelers had already left. Just a few late flights and the overnight crew. The airport would transform into what I thought of as its true self. Empty, echoing, belonging to those of us who kept it running while everyone else slept. I checked in with my supervisor, Ed Vasquez, got my assignments for the night. Standard stuff. Clean the bathrooms on C concourse, restock supplies, run the floor polisher through the gate areas. Ed mentioned they'd done some construction recently, extending C concourse for future expansion. New gates would open next year, part of the airport's ongoing growth plan. Don't worry about that section tonight, Ed said. It's still closed, under construction. Focus on the active areas. We've got inspectors coming through next week. Want everything spotless. I loaded my cart with supplies. Cleaning solution, paper towels, trash bags, mop bucket. The familiar weight and arrangement, everything in its place. I'd been loading this cart the same way for 9 years. Muscle memory. I could do it in my sleep. I headed to C concourse. The terminal stretched out in front of me, long and bright and empty. DIA's terminals are built on a massive scale, designed to handle tens of millions of passengers annually. The ceilings are high, the corridors wide, everything oversized. At night, with nobody around, that scale becomes oppressive. Too much space, too much fluorescent light reflecting off too much white floor, too much empty air. I started at C94, the farthest gate, worked my way back. The routine was meditative. Wipe down the seats, empty trash cans, sweep and mop the floor. Put in earbuds, listen to podcasts about history or science. Let my hands do the work while my mind goes elsewhere. I'd cleaned thousands of gates over 9 years. Could do it half asleep. The gates at the far end of C concourse were always the quietest. They served smaller regional flights, weren't used as frequently as the gates near the terminal entrance. Sometimes days would pass between flights, and dust would accumulate on the seats. Tonight was no different. C94 was pristine. No passengers had used it recently. I worked my way through C93, C92, C91. Around 12:30 a.m., the last red-eye pushed back from C89. I watched through the windows as it taxied away, lights blinking in the darkness. The ground crew followed shortly after, their vehicles disappearing into the night. Now the concourse was truly empty. Just me and the hum of HVAC systems. I worked through C90, C89, C88. Around 1 a.m., I noticed something odd. The corridor seemed longer than usual, like the space between gates had expanded. I knew that didn't make sense. The gates were fixed points, marked on the terminal plans, built into the structure. But the walk from C88 to C87 felt like it took longer than it should. 10 extra steps, maybe 15. I shrugged it off. Night shifts do that sometimes. Fatigue and fluorescent lights playing tricks. Distance becomes elastic. Time becomes syrup. I'd once spent what felt like an hour cleaning a bathroom, only to discover 10 minutes had passed, and vice versa. The night shift warps perception. I kept working, moving through C87, C86, C85. The routine was soothing, requiring just enough attention to keep me present, but not so much that I couldn't let my mind wander. I was listening to a podcast about the Byzantine Empire, half focused on emperors and religious controversies, when I realized I was standing still. At C85, I stopped to empty a trash can and noticed the gate across the corridor. C84, except the sign above it didn't say C84, it said C0. I pulled out my earbuds, the Byzantine Empire vanishing. Stared at the sign, Gate 0. That wasn't right. Gates were numbered sequentially. No airport used 0 as a gate number. It would create confusion, mess with the numbering system. Gates started at 1, not 0. That was basic airport design. I looked around. The corridor was empty, silent except for the omnipresent hum of HVS systems. The gate itself looked normal. Standard layout, rows of seats in that uncomfortable airport configuration. Desk for gate agents. Jet bridge extending out to where a plane would dock. But the sign definitely said C0. I pulled out my phone, checked the terminal map I'd saved. According to the official DIA layout, there was no gate 0. C concourse ran from C1 to C94, continuous sequence, nothing else. I walked closer to the gate. The seats were clean, no trash or debris. The floor was polished, like someone had recently maintained it. But that didn't make sense if it was under construction, or if it didn't officially exist. Who was cleaning a gate that wasn't on any map? The reader board above the gate desk was off, no flight information displayed. The jet bridge door was closed. Everything looked normal and functional, except it shouldn't exist. I decided to ask Ed about it on my break. Probably just a temporary designation for the construction area, something I hadn't been briefed on. Maybe they'd installed the sign early before officially opening the gate. That would explain it. I moved on to C83, kept cleaning. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. Gate 0. The number bothered me. 0 was absence void, nothing. Not a number you'd use for a functional space. You wouldn't tell passengers to proceed to gate nothing for boarding. By 2 a.m., I'd worked my way back to C60. The terminal was completely empty now. Even the security checkpoints were unmanned. Wouldn't staff up again until 4:30 for the first morning flights. Just me and the maintenance crew scattered through 3 terminals, and the pilots doing pre-flight checks in the operations center, and the air traffic controllers in their tower. But otherwise, empty. I took my break in the employee lounge, a cramped room with vending machines and worn furniture. Coffee maker with coffee that tasted like battery acid. Ed was there, doing paperwork. He looked tired. We all looked tired. Night shift does that. Ed, what's the deal with Gate 0? He looked up from his tablet. Gate what? Gate 0, on C concourse, near C85. I saw it while I was cleaning. Ed frowned. There's no Gate 0. C concourse runs 1 through 94. Always has. I know, but there's a sign that says C0. Thought maybe it was part of the construction. The construction area is past C94, completely sealed off. You sure you saw C0? Positive. Big sign, just like all the other gate signs. C0 in white letters on blue background. Standard airport signage. Ed pulled out his tablet. brought up the terminal schematics. We scrolled through the floor plans, the gate assignments, the construction diagrams. No gate 0 anywhere in the system. The plans showed C-84 directly across from C-85, nothing between them or before them. Probably a temporary sign, something maintenance put up, Ed said. Or maybe your eyes were tired. Read C-84 as C0. Happens. Don't worry about it. If it's not on the assignment list, it's not your problem. Focus on the active gates. I let it drop. But it gnawed at me. I'd seen that sign clearly. C0. Not a misread, not a typo. A deliberate designation. White letters on blue background. Professionally made. Identical to every other gate sign in the terminal. I finished my break and headed back to C concourse. Decided I'd take another look, confirm what I'd seen. Maybe photograph it with my phone, show Ed physical evidence. I walked to where gate 0 had been, found C-85 on the left side of the corridor, C-84 on the right. Standard configuration, everything in order. No gate 0. I stopped, confused. I'd been here less than an hour ago. The gate had been right there, where C-84 now stood. Or had it been across from C-85? No, it had definitely been across from C-85, which meant it should be where C-84 was. But C-84 had always been there. I cleaned it every night. I walked the corridor slowly, checking each gate. C-87, C-86, C-85, C-84, C-83. Standard sequence. No gaps. No extra gates. Everything exactly as it should be. Exactly as it had been for 9 years. But I'd seen it. I was certain. I pulled out my phone, checked the location history. According to the GPS, I'd been right here at 1:15 a.m., right where I was standing now, between C-85 and C-84. Nothing anomalous. I shook my head. Fatigue, like I'd thought. Too many night shifts, eyes playing tricks, the mind seeing patterns that weren't there, filling in gaps with false information. I'd heard of this happening to night shift workers. Long stretches of isolation and artificial light, causing minor hallucinations. Nothing to worry about. I went back to work, moving through the C-70s. The podcast had moved on to the fall of Constantinople. I tried to focus on it, let the narration carry me away from thoughts of phantom gates. At 3 a.m., I was cleaning the bathrooms near C-50 when I heard the announcement. It came through the PA system, that automated voice airports use for boarding calls. Clear, professional, slightly artificial. The voice that tells you your flight is boarding, that gate B47 is a 15-minute walk, that the airport appreciates your patience. Attention passengers, flight 1201, now boarding at gate 0. All passengers holding tickets for flight 1201 should proceed to gate 0 for immediate boarding. Flight 1201 to be boarding now. The announcement cut off mid-sentence, like someone had pulled a plug. Static crackled through the speakers for a moment, then silence. I stood in the bathroom, mop in hand, staring at the ceiling speaker. Flight 1201, gate 0. That was impossible. No flights boarded at 3 a.m. from Terminal C. I checked the flight schedules religiously. Needed to know when crowds would be present, when I'd need to adjust my cleaning routine. The last departure from C concourse had been at 1:45, the red-eye I'd watched push back. Nothing else until the first morning flight at 5:50. And certainly no flights to nowhere, which is effectively what the announcement had said. It had cut off before stating a destination. I dropped the mop back in the bucket and headed for the corridor. The terminal was still empty, but now I noticed something I'd missed before. The lights near C-85 were dimmer, like they were on a different circuit or the bulbs were failing. And the air felt different there, cooler with a strange smell. Not unpleasant, just unusual, like ozone and old carpet and something else I couldn't identify, like thunderstorms and dust. I walked toward C-85, my footsteps echoing in the empty corridor. The podcast was still playing in one earbud, something about Ottoman siege tactics. But I barely heard it. My attention was focused ahead, on the dimmer lighting, on the strange quality of the air. And there it was again. Gate 0. Same sign, same layout, same closed jet bridge door. But now the reader board was on. Flickering green text displayed information in that old-style LED font airports used to use. Flight W1 departure. 0315. Destination. Blank. Status. Boarding, no airline logo. No specific destination. Just those 3 lines of information and the flickering green letters that hurt to look at directly. And the seats at the gate weren't empty anymore. There were 5 people sitting there, 4 adults and 1 child. They sat motionless, facing the jet bridge door, carry-on bags at their feet. The overhead lights made their features hard to distinguish. Shadows falling across their faces in ways that seemed wrong. Shadows shouldn't fall like that under direct fluorescent lighting. I approached slowly. None of them moved. No one looked at phones. No one spoke. No one shifted in the uncomfortable airport seats. Just 5 people sitting perfectly still, waiting with impossible patience. "Excuse me," I called out. "This gate isn't active. Are you folks lost? Do you need help finding your gate?" No response. They didn't turn, didn't acknowledge me at all. I moved closer, my shoes squeaking on the polished floor. The sound seemed too loud in the empty terminal. The nearest passenger was a man in a business suit, maybe 50 years old, with gray hair and wire-rimmed glasses. His hands were folded in his lap, and his eyes were open, staring straight ahead at the jet bridge door. But there was something wrong with his posture. Too rigid, too perfectly still. Like a mannequin. Like something that looked like a person but wasn't quite right. "Sir, are you okay?" I reached out, touched his shoulder. The fabric of his suit felt real, wool blend, the kind business travelers wear. But the shoulder beneath was rigid, unyielding. His head turned toward me. Smooth as a turret, mechanical precision. His eyes focused on mine. They were completely black. No whites, no iris, no pupil differentiation. Just solid black from lid to lid, like someone had painted over them with tar. I jerked my hand back, nearly falling. The man's head rotated forward again, smooth and mechanical, resuming his vigil of the jet bridge door. Like I was no longer worthy of attention. I backed away, heart hammering. Looked at the other passengers. None of them had moved, but now I could see their eyes too. All of them turning slightly to track my movement. Black and empty, reflecting no light. Next to the businessman sat a couple in their 30s. The man wore khakis and a flannel shirt. The woman wore jeans and a sweater. Between them sat a child, the girl maybe 8 years old, in a red dress with white trim. Christmas outfit, velvet and lace. Her hair was in pigtails tied with red ribbons. They all had the same black eyes. The child was worst. She sat between the adults I assumed were her parents, her hands folded exactly like the businessman's. Her small face was tilted slightly upward, black eyes fixed on some point in the middle distance, on something I couldn't see. And her expression was serene, peaceful, like she was looking at something beautiful. "What the hell is this?" I whispered. The PA system crackled, that same automated voice. "Final boarding call for Flight 1201. All passengers should proceed to Gate 0 immediately. This is the final call for Flight 1201. The gate will close in 5 minutes." The jet bridge door opened, not with the usual pneumatic hiss and slow swing. It just opened, sudden and silent, like a cut in reality, revealing darkness beyond. Not the darkness of a jet bridge with lights off, but absolute darkness. The kind that seems to have depth and substance, like looking into deep water at night, like looking into space without stars. The 5 passengers stood as one, smooth, synchronized, like they were controlled by a single puppeteer. They picked up their bags with identical mechanical movements and walked toward the open door, moving in a line. Their footsteps made no sound. I wanted to stop them, to grab them and pull them back, to tell them not to get on that plane, that something was wrong. But my body wouldn't respond. I could only watch as they filed into that darkness, disappearing one by one. The businessman first, vanishing into the black. Then the male passenger from the couple. Then the woman. The little girl was last. She paused at the threshold, turned her head, looked directly at me with those black eyes, held my gaze for a long moment. Then she smiled, just a slight upturn of her lips. A child's smile, sweet and innocent, and absolutely terrifying in that expressionless face with those impossible eyes. And walked into the darkness. The jet bridge door closed, silent as it had opened. The reader board flickered and went dark. And when I looked around, the gate was gone. I was standing in an empty corridor between C-86 and C-84. No gate 0, no passengers, no reader board. No sign any of it had ever existed. Just the normal configuration of Terminal C, exactly as it should be. I stood there for several minutes, breathing hard, waiting for my heart rate to settle. My hands were shaking. I checked my phone. 3:08 a.m. The whole incident had taken maybe 5 minutes. I pulled up Ed's number and called him. Ed, I need you to come to C Concourse, near C-85. Russell, it's 3 in the morning. What's wrong? You sound shook up. Just come, please. I need you to see something. Or I need you to tell me I'm losing my mind, one or the other. He arrived 10 minutes later, found me sitting against the wall, still shaking slightly. He had 2 cups of coffee from the employee lounge, handed me one. What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost. I told him. All of it. Gate 0, the announcement, the passengers with black eyes, the door opening into darkness. I expected him to think I was crazy, having some kind of breakdown. Expected him to send me home, maybe mandate a psych evaluation before I could return to work. Instead, his face went pale. He sat down next to me on the floor, coffee forgotten. Show me exactly where you saw it, he said quietly. I led him to the spot. Empty corridor, C-86 and C-84 visible on either side. Normal lighting, normal air. No trace of Gate 0. Ed pulled out his tablet, checked something. His hands were trembling slightly. Russell, how long have you worked here? 9 years. You know that. You hired me. Has anyone ever told you about the missing flight? What missing flight? Ed sat down on one of the benches near C-86, rubbed his face. He suddenly looked old, tired beyond the normal night shift fatigue. This is going to sound insane, but there's a story that circulates among the night crew, among those of us who've been here long enough. I always thought it was bullshit, urban legend stuff, the kind of story bored janitors and security guards tell each other to pass the time. But, okay, back in 1995, during the airport's first year of operation, there was a Christmas Eve red-eye scheduled. United Flight 1201, bound for Chicago O'Hare. 73 passengers, 6 crew members. Scheduled departure at 2:30 a.m. I felt cold. Flight 1201. Yeah, the flight was supposed to depart from C Concourse. Passengers boarded normally, bags loaded, door closed, plane pushed back from the gate. But it never took off. Tower lost contact right after pushback. Lost all radar and radio contact. When ground crew went to investigate, they found the plane sitting on the taxiway, engines running, but completely empty. No passengers, no crew, no baggage. Just an empty 737 sitting there, like the Mary Celeste of airplanes. That's impossible. I know, but it's documented. There was a huge investigation. FAA, FBI, NTSB, everyone. They crawled over that plane for months. No explanation was ever found. No bodies. No evidence of what happened to those people. No indication of how they could have exited the aircraft. The doors were still closed and locked from the inside. Emergency exits undisturbed. No sign of struggle or violence. Just 79 people vanished into thin air. What happened to the plane? Scrapped eventually. Too much bad press. No airline would use it. No airport would want it. And the gate it departed from was renumbered. They skipped it in the sequence when they reorganized the terminal layouts. What gate? The gate between what's now C-86 and C-84. Originally, there was a gate there, C-42, in the old numbering system. But after Flight 1201, they renumbered everything. Eliminated C-42 from the sequence, renumbered all the subsequent gates to close the gap. Officially, to streamline operations and eliminate numbering confusion. But the real reason was they wanted to erase any connection to Flight 1201. Wanted to pretend it never happened. I processed that, felt the coffee going cold in my hands. So Gate 0 was the original gate, the one they tried to erase, the one they deleted from reality. We sat in silence for a while. The terminal hummed around us, indifferent machinery keeping the building alive. HVAC systems, electrical systems, all the invisible infrastructure that makes modern buildings function. Why tonight? I finally asked. Why Christmas Eve? Same night the original flight disappeared, December 24th, 1995, 26 years ago, exactly. You think it's some kind of anniversary? The gate reappears and replays what happened. I don't think anything. I'm a facility supervisor, not a paranormal investigator. But I've heard stories from other night crew over the years. People seeing strange things in C concourse, gates that shouldn't be there, announcements for flights that don't exist, passengers waiting for planes that never come. Most people assume it's fatigue or stress. Night shift does things to your head, makes you see things that aren't there. Those passengers I saw, they were real. I touched one of them. Ed looked at me, something unreadable in his expression. What did they look like? Describe them. I described the 5 passengers, the businessman in the gray suit with wire-rimmed glasses, the couple in their 30s, casual clothes, the little girl in the red dress with white trim, pigtails, with red ribbons, the black eyes. Ed pulled out his tablet again, navigated to something, showed me the screen. It was a scanned newspaper article from the Denver Post, dated January 3rd, 1996. Mystery of missing flight deepens. No trace of 79 souls. Below the headline was a photo. 5 people standing in an airport terminal, smiling at the camera. A businessman in a suit with wire-rimmed glasses. A couple in their 30s. And a little girl in a red dress, standing between the couple, holding their hands. Pigtails with ribbons. The caption identified them. Among the missing, Daniel Reeves, 52, of Chicago, and the Morrison family of Seattle, Carl Morrison, 34, Jennifer Morrison, 32, and their daughter, Emma, 8. The Morrison family was traveling to Chicago to spend Christmas with relatives. The same 5 people I'd just seen at Gate 0. 26 years older in the photo than they should be, but unmistakably the same people. The same faces, the same clothes, the same everything. I stared at the photo. Little Emma Morrison was smiling, gap-toothed and happy, holding her parents' hands. Excited to see grandparents, probably. Excited about presents and Christmas morning. Alive in that photo. Missing for 26 years in reality. There were 73 passengers on that flight, Ed said quietly. But according to the stories, only 5 appear at Gate 0. Always the same 5. No one knows why. Why these specific 5 out of 73 passengers and 6 crew members? What makes them special? Why do they keep coming back? What happens to them? Where do they go when they board? No idea. They walk into the jet bridge and disappear. And the gate disappears with them until the next year. This happens every year. Supposedly. Christmas Eve, sometime between 2 and 4 a.m. Not everyone sees it. Most years the night crew doesn't report anything unusual. But every few years, someone does. Someone sees the gate, or hears the announcement, or sees the passengers. There's no pattern to who sees it, no common factor among the witnesses, just random chance. Why didn't you warn me? Why didn't anyone tell me about this? Would you have believed me? Before tonight, if I'd sat you down on your first day and said, by the way, sometimes a ghost gate appears and phantom passengers board a plane that doesn't exist, would you have accepted any of that as real? Or would you have thought I was crazy? He was right. I wouldn't have believed. Would have thought it was a hazing ritual, the older employees messing with the new guy. Ed stood up. Look, Russell, I need you to do something for me. Don't report this. Don't file an incident report. Don't tell the other janitors. Don't post about it online. The airport administration doesn't acknowledge any of this. Officially, there's no Gate Zero, no missing flight, no anniversary haunting, or whatever you want to call it. If you make noise about it, you'll just end up looking unstable. Maybe lose your job. Best thing is to finish your shift, go home, and try to forget. You want me to pretend I didn't see anything? I want you to survive the night and keep your employment. Whatever's happening here, we don't understand it. We can't stop it, can't investigate it properly, can't even prove it's real. Best thing is to document it privately if you must, but keep it to yourself. I wanted to argue, but what would I argue for? An investigation into a ghost gate that appeared once a year. A search for passengers who'd been missing for 2 decades. There was no logic to any of this. No rational framework that could encompass what I'd seen. Finish your assignment, Ed said. Stay away from C-85 for the rest of the night. I'll handle this section. You focus on the concourse entrance area, the shops and restaurants. Stay in well-lit areas with activity. He walked away, leaving me alone in the corridor. I sat there for a while, trying to process. Then I got up, retrieved my cleaning cart from where I'd left it near the bathrooms, and went back to work. But I couldn't stay away from C-85. At 4:30 a.m., when the first shift, supervisors were arriving and the terminal was starting to wake up, I found myself back there. The corridor was unchanged. Normal sequence of gates, C-86, C-84, no gap. The lights were normal brightness. No ozone smell, no temperature change, just standard airport corridor. I stood where Gate Zero had been, tried to understand what I'd witnessed. Ed's explanation made a kind of sense. Anniversary replay, the missing 5 passengers appearing at the gate they'd last been seen at. Ghosts, or echoes, or whatever term you wanted to use. The building remembering something traumatic that had happened here. Stone tape theory, I think it's called. Places recording events and playing them back under certain conditions. But that didn't explain everything. Because when the little girl, Emma Morrison, had turned to look at me before disappearing into the jet bridge, there had been intelligence in those black eyes. Recognition. Awareness. Like she'd been looking at me specifically, seeing me as an individual. Like she'd wanted me to witness what happened. Like she'd been trying to communicate something. I pulled out my phone, searched for information about Flight 1201, found the newspaper articles Ed had referenced, plus some forum posts from aviation enthusiasts and paranormal investigators. The story was as he'd described. Flight scheduled, passengers boarded, plane found empty on the taxiway. No explanation ever determined. One of aviation's enduring mysteries, up there with Malaysia Airlines 370 and Amelia Earhart. But one detail stuck out. The flight had been bound for Chicago O'Hare. Scheduled arrival time, 6:45 a.m. Central Time, Christmas morning. The flight had been taking people home for Christmas, families reuniting, business travelers finishing their trips before the holiday. 73 passengers and 6 crew members who'd wanted nothing more than to spend Christmas with loved ones. And they'd vanished instead. Disappeared between gate and sky, erased from existence. 79 people whose families woke up on Christmas morning expecting them to arrive, but who never did. 79 empty places at Christmas dinner. 79 sets of unopened presents. I thought about Emma Morrison, 8 years old, in her Christmas dress. She'd been flying to Chicago with her parents to see her grandparents, probably excited about presents, about seeing cousins, about all the things children look forward to on Christmas. Her parents had probably promised her she could stay up to open one present on Christmas Eve after they landed, had probably packed her favorite stuffed animal in their carry-on bags. Instead, she'd walked into darkness and never emerged, along with 78 other people. At 5 a.m., I was cleaning near C30 when I heard footsteps. Turned to see a TSA agent approaching, a woman named Carla I'd talked to a few times during shift overlaps. She'd been working airport security for over 15 years, knew DIA as well as I did. "Russell, you seen anything weird tonight?" I hesitated, remembered Ed's warning not to talk about it. Define weird. I was doing my rounds on B concourse, and I swear I saw a gate that shouldn't be there. B0, right in the middle of the terminal. But when I looked again, it was gone, like it had never been there. My skin went cold. What time was this? About 4:45, right after I checked the checkpoint. 1 second it was there, the next it wasn't. Gate sign said B0, and there were people sitting there. Thought maybe I was seeing things, so I looked away and then looked back. But it was gone. Did you see the people clearly? Not really. Maybe 5 or 6 passengers. They looked, I don't know, wrong somehow. Couldn't explain it. But they made me uncomfortable, so I decided to check it out. Turned around to set down my coffee, and when I looked back, the whole gate was gone. Just normal corridor. She laughed nervously. Probably just tired, long shift, and Christmas Eve always messes with my head. Makes me remember my dad. He was a pilot, died when I was a kid. Christmas always makes me think of him. Probably just tired, I agreed, keeping my voice neutral. But I didn't believe it, and neither did she. I could see it in her eyes. After Carla left, I found a computer terminal in one of the unused gate areas and logged into the maintenance system. Searched for incident reports, filtering for keywords like gate, anomaly, disappearance, 0. Found 11 reports over the past 20 years. Various terminals, various dates, but all of them clustered around Christmas, December 23rd, 24th, 25th. And all of them described the same thing. A gate that shouldn't exist, marked with the number 0, appearing briefly and then vanishing. Some reports mentioned it in a terminal, some in B, most in C. But always the same basic phenomenon. Some reports mentioned passengers, others didn't. But the reports that did mention passengers all described the same 5 people. A businessman in his 50s, a couple in their 30s, a little girl in a red dress, always the same 5. Daniel Reeves, Carl and Jennifer Morrison, Emma Morrison. But why them? Why did those 5 appear when there had been 73 passengers total? What made them different? Why were they chosen to be the repeating witnesses, the eternal boarding passengers? I dug deeper, found the full passenger manifest for Flight 1201, archived in an old news database. Scrolled through the names. Most were unremarkable. Business travelers, families, a few college students heading home for the holiday. Normal distribution of humanity. Then I noticed a pattern. Most passengers had been traveling alone or in pairs, but 5 passengers had been seated together on the manifest, seats 12A through 12E. Daniel Reeves in 12A, Carl Morrison in 12B, Jennifer Morrison in 12C, Emma Morrison in 12D, and one more, seat 12E. The name listed was Russell Morrison. Age, 41, listed next to Carl Morrison with the notation, passenger's brother. I stared at the screen. Russell Morrison, same first name as me. That had to be coincidence. Russell wasn't an uncommon name. Fairly popular in the 70s and 80s. No reason to think there was any connection between a passenger from 1995 and me. Just random chance. But the coincidence bothered me. I kept digging, found more information about Russell Morrison. He'd been an engineer at Boeing, lived in Chicago, worked on 737 systems, was flying to Seattle to spend Christmas with his brother's family. The article mentioned he'd been recently divorced, had no children. His brother Carl's family was all he had left. The article also mentioned he'd been nervous about flying, had told his brother he had a bad feeling about the trip, had almost canceled. But he'd boarded anyway, not wanting to disappoint his niece, Emma. She'd been excited for Uncle Russell to visit, had made him a Christmas card. Russell Morrison had walked onto Flight 1201 with a sense of foreboding, and he'd been right to worry. He'd vanished along with everyone else. His name added to the list of the missing. I closed the browser, feeling sick. This was too much. The name coincidence, the gate appearing on Christmas Eve, the 5 passengers who kept returning. There had to be an explanation that didn't involve ghosts or curses or whatever paranormal framework would encompass this. But I couldn't think of one, couldn't logic my way through it. The evidence kept pointing to something impossible, something that shouldn't exist but clearly did. At 6 a.m., with 1 hour left in my shift, I decided to do something probably stupid. I went back to C-85. The corridor was filling with early morning activity now. The first flights were boarding, passengers arriving through security with coffee cups and travel pillows. The terminal was waking up, returning to its normal busy self. Soon, the night would be over, and everything would be normal again. But right now, in the transition between night and day, in that liminal hour, I stood where Gate 0 had been. Closed my eyes, tried to feel if there was anything unusual about the space. Temperature, air pressure, electromagnetic fields, whatever might indicate something anomalous. Nothing, just a normal airport corridor. Sound of distant announcements, smell of coffee and cleaning chemicals, feeling of conditioned air moving through the terminal. I opened my eyes, and Gate 0 was there. Not fully manifested like before. More like a double exposure photograph. I could see through it to C-84 beyond, but I could also see the gate itself. The seats, the desk, the jet bridge door. Ghostly, transparent, but present. Like 2 realities overlapping, and sitting in the seats, equally transparent, were the 5 passengers. Daniel Reeves in his suit, Carl and Jennifer Morrison, little Emma in her red dress, and in seat 12E, where Russell Morrison would have sat, was an empty space. The seat was there, transparent like the rest, but nobody occupied it. Just empty air. As I watched, Emma Morrison turned her head. Those black eyes, visible even through the transparency, fixed on me. And she raised one small hand, beckoned me forward. Come here. Come closer. Every survival instinct I had screamed to leave, turn around, walk away, finish my shift, go home, and never think about this again. But I stepped forward anyway, approached the gate, the transparent passengers, the impossible space that shouldn't exist. Emma Morrison stood up. Her parents didn't move, didn't react, like they couldn't see what she was doing. She walked toward me, tiny and solemn in her red dress, her black eyes never leaving mine. She stopped just inside the gate boundary, on the edge between her space and mine, between the ghost gate and the real corridor, reached out one translucent hand and spoke. Her voice was strange, layered, like multiple voices at once. Child voice, adult voice, something else underneath, something old. He wasn't supposed to be on the flight. Russell Morrison. He was supposed to miss it. That's why the seat is empty. That's why we come back. Because the pattern is incomplete. Someone needs to fill the empty seat. I don't understand, I whispered, barely able to get the words out. The flight was taken. All 73 passengers removed from normal space and time. But one was marked for exclusion. Russell Morrison. He had a premonition, was supposed to listen to it, supposed to stay home. But he came anyway. And when the flight was taken, his refusal to follow the pattern created an instability. A loop. We can't leave until the pattern is complete. Until someone fills the empty seat. Until Russell Morrison boards the flight. I'm not Russell Morrison. I just have the same first name. Names have power, resonance. You share his name. You exist in the right time frame. You work in this place, walk these corridors, stand where he stood. The pattern recognizes you. You can complete it. Fill the empty seat. Let us leave. I backed away. No, I'm not getting on that flight. I'm not disappearing. Emma Morrison tilted her head. We've been waiting 26 years, coming back every Christmas Eve, hoping someone would understand, hoping someone would help. We're tired. We want to go home. We just want to get to Chicago, see our families, open presents on Christmas morning. We just want to finish the journey. I can't help you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're trapped, but I can't trade places with you. I have a life. I have my daughter. I can't just vanish. Not trade. Complete. If you fill the empty seat, the pattern closes. The flight can finish its journey. We arrive in Chicago, Christmas morning, 1995. We get to go home to our families, and you return here. The loop ends for all of us. You won't disappear. You'll complete the circuit and return. The pattern will release you. How do I know you're telling the truth? How do I know I won't just disappear like Russell Morrison did? You don't. You have to trust. Just like we had to trust when we boarded 26 years ago. Trust that the pattern knows what it's doing. That completion is possible. That Christmas can still come for us. The transparent gate was starting to fade as daylight strengthened. Morning was coming, the daily world asserting itself. The 5 passengers were becoming harder to see, their forms dissolving into the brightening air. Please, Emma Morrison said, and her voice was just a child's voice now, tired and sad and pleading. We just want to go home. We just want Christmas to come. We've been waiting so long, 26 Christmases in the dark. Please help us. The gate vanished. I was alone in the corridor again, with morning light streaming through the windows and the sound of boarding announcements echoing through the terminal. The daily world had returned. Normal reality, with its normal rules. But I knew what I'd seen, knew what had been asked of me. I stood there for a long time, thinking. Then I went to the employee lounge, logged into a computer, and started researching. Everything I could find about Flight 1201, about Russell Morrison, about the mechanics of what had happened. Spent my last hour of shift reading through archived newspaper articles, investigation reports, witness testimonies. The rest of my shift passed in a blur. I cleaned mechanically, my mind elsewhere. At 7 a.m., I clocked out, went to my car, and sat in the parking lot for another hour, just sitting, thinking, trying to decide. By December 25th, Christmas Day, I'd made my decision. I called Ed, told him I needed to take vacation time, the week between Christmas and New Year's. He approved it without question. Most people wanted time off during the holidays anyway. Then I began preparing, researching patterns, researching time loops, researching everything I could find about airport hauntings and aviation mysteries. I didn't know if what Emma Morrison had told me was true. Didn't know if filling the empty seat would actually close the loop and send those passengers home. But I knew they'd been trapped for 26 years. 26 Christmas Eves appearing at that gate, hoping for release. 26 times watching families gather while they remained in limbo. And I knew I was probably the only person who could help them. December 31st, 2021, New Year's Eve. I returned to DIA at 11 p.m., told security I'd left something in my locker, needed to retrieve it. They waved me through, used to seeing off-shift employees retrieving forgotten items. The airport was moderately busy. New Year's Eve travelers heading to parties and celebrations. I went to C concourse, walked to C85, and waited. Midnight came. Nothing happened. The corridor remained normal. Just regular gates, regular configuration. I waited longer, feeling stupid. What was I expecting? The gate only appeared on Christmas Eve, according to the stories. This was New Year's Eve. Different night, different energy. But I'd seen it appear briefly in the morning on Christmas Day. The transparent version, the double exposure. Maybe it was still active, still accessible. Maybe the loop extended beyond just Christmas Eve. At 1 a.m., the gate appeared, solid this time, not transparent. Full manifestation, as real as anything else in the terminal. Gate 0, with its flickering reader board and the 5 passengers sitting motionless in their seats. The jet bridge door was open. Darkness beyond. I walked toward it. Emma Morrison turned her head, watched me approach. When I reached the gate area, she stood up. "You came back. You decided to help. I don't know if this will work, but I'm willing to try. If it means you can go home, if it means you can finally finish your journey, then I'll try. The seat is waiting." She gestured to 12E. The empty seat between her father and the window. I looked at the other passengers. Daniel Reeves, Carl, and Jennifer Morrison. They hadn't moved, hadn't reacted, still as statues with their black eyes, waiting with infinite patience. Will they be okay if this works? Will they remember their families? They'll go home. We'll all go home. We'll arrive on Christmas morning, 1995, and our families will be there to meet us, and we'll finally be able to rest. I walked to seat 12E, sat down. The seat felt real, solid. I could smell the airplane smell, recirculated air and carpet, and that indefinable scent of travel. Could hear the ambient sounds of an aircraft, the hum of systems, the subtle creaks and groans. Emma Morrison sat back down in 12D next to me, took my hand with her small fingers. Her skin was ice cold, but her grip was real. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Thank you for believing us. Thank you for helping." The jet bridge door closed. The PA system crackled. "Flight 1201 now departing. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened." I hadn't put on a seatbelt. Didn't matter. The seat seemed to grip me, hold me in place. The gate began to move. Not physically, but spatially. Like we were sliding sideways through dimensions, through time, through the gaps between moments. The terminal outside the windows blurred, became indistinct. Colors smeared together. Solid objects became suggestions. I closed my eyes, felt the movement, the displacement, felt time stretching, contracting, folding over itself like origami. Felt 26 years compress into an instant. Felt Christmas Eve 1995 and New Year's Eve 2021 occupying the same space. Then stillness, silence, the sensation of arrival. I opened my eyes. I was still sitting in seat 12E. But the windows showed different light now. Dawn light, golden and clear and cold. Winter morning. And the temperature had changed, warmer, like the environmental systems had been running differently. Emma Morrison let go of my hand and stood up. She walked to the A window, looked out, and laughed. Just a child's laugh, pure and delighted and free, the sound of genuine joy. "It's Chicago. We're in Chicago. It's Christmas morning." The jet bridge door opened, normal light beyond, the interior of an airport terminal. But not the modern DIA I knew. This was older, different configuration. O'Hare, I realized. 1995 era O'Hare, before renovations and expansions. I could see CRT monitors instead of flat screens, see payphones on the walls, see styles of clothing and architecture from decades ago. The 5 passengers stood up. Their eyes were normal now. White sclera, colored irises, pupils that dilated in the light. Human. Alive. Daniel Reeves stretched, checked his watch, looking confused but relieved. Carl and Jennifer Morrison gathered their bags, looking around in wonder. Emma tugged on her father's sleeve, pointing excitedly at something outside. "Dad, look, it's snowing. It's really Christmas." They filed off the plane, walking into the terminal. Into Christmas morning, 1995, where families would be waiting, where their lives would continue from this point. 26 years late by one measure, but perfectly on time by another. The loop closing, the journey completing. Emma was last. She paused at the jet bridge door, turned back to me. Her eyes were brown now, normal child's eyes, full of life and wonder. "You should go too, before it closes. The pattern is complete. You can return now." "How? Where do I go?" She smiled, a real smile this time. "You'll know. Just stand up and walk. The pattern will take you home." Then she walked through the door and was gone. Into her grandparents' arms, into Christmas morning, into the life that had been paused for 26 years, but could finally resume. I stood up, walked to the jet bridge. The terminal beyond was busy with early morning travelers, all in mid-1990s clothing, carrying period-appropriate luggage. 1995. I was seeing the past, standing in a moment that had already happened decades ago. But I didn't belong here. Emma was right. I needed to return. I turned around. The plane cabin behind me was dissolving, becoming transparent. Beyond it, I could see another space. Familiar space. Terminal C at DIA, early morning light, modern clothing on distant passengers. Digital displays instead of CRT monitors. Smartphones instead of payphones. My time, my world. I walked toward it. The 1995 plane faded around me, became mist, became nothing. And then I was standing in the corridor between C86 and C84, with early morning sunlight and the smell of coffee from a nearby Starbucks. Gate 0 was gone. The 5 passengers were gone. Russell Morrison's seat was filled. The pattern was complete. I checked my phone. December 31st, 2021, 7:30 a.m., like almost no time had passed at all. Like I'd just been standing here, waiting. I went home, called my daughter, told her I loved her, slept for 12 hours. When I woke up, I searched for information about Flight 1201. The articles were different now. The mystery was resolved. The flight had experienced a navigation system malfunction that caused a delay and communication blackout. But everyone had landed safely in Chicago on Christmas morning, 1995. All passengers and crew accounted for. A footnote in aviation history, not an enduring mystery. Normal, explicable, resolved. No missing passengers. No unsolved disappearances. No families mourning lost loved ones on Christmas morning. The pattern was complete. The loop was closed. I went back to work on January 2nd, 2022. Ed asked if I'd had a good break. I said yes. He looked at me carefully, searchingly, like he was looking for something in my face. Then he nodded. Good. Listen, I've been meaning to mention, we did some research over the holiday, archives, and old construction records. Turns out there used to be a gate between C86 and C84. In the original 1995 construction plans. They closed it and renumbered the sequence early on, but it's not listed anywhere in current documentation. What was it numbered? Records just call it Gate C0. Weird designation. Nobody uses 0 for gates. Anyway, just thought you should know. In case you ever see anything unusual. You can come talk to me. I'll believe you. He walked away before I could respond. That was 3 years ago. I still work the night shift at DIA, still clean Terminal C. I walk past C85 every shift. Sometimes I stop there, stand in the space where Gate 0 used to appear. It hasn't appeared again. I don't think it will. The loop is closed, the pattern complete. The passengers went home. But sometimes, on Christmas Eve, When the terminal is empty and the lights are dim, I think I hear it. Faint, distant, barely audible under the hum of HVAC systems. A child's laughter, happy and free. Emma Morrison, finally home. Finally experiencing the Christmas morning that had been taken from her 26 years ago. She got her Christmas after all. 26 years late, but she got it. And somewhere in the records, in the corrected timeline where Flight 1201 landed safely, there's probably a photo of the Morrison family arriving at O'Hare on Christmas morning, 1995. Carl and Jennifer and little Emma walking through the terminal to where grandparents waited. Tired but happy. Together. Safe. Finally home. And in that photo, if you looked carefully at the plane's windows in the background, you might see a face. A man sitting in seat 12E, looking out at the terminal. Russell Morrison. Or someone who completed what he couldn't. Someone who filled the empty seat and closed the loop. Someone who helped 5 lost souls find their way home for Christmas. I like to think they're happy now. That Emma got to open her presents. That Daniel Reeves made it to his business meeting. That the Morrison family had their reunion. That somewhere, in some version of history, that flight ended the way it should have. With everyone arriving, safely, with families reunited, with Christmas morning dawning bright and full of possibility. And if my role in that was to sit in an empty seat for a few moments, to be the one who completed the pattern, then I'm glad I could help. Merry Christmas, Emma Morrison. Merry Christmas to all of you. I hope you're home now. I hope you're finally at peace.